Hello, everybody. Welcome to Island Girl Views, and thank you for joining me tonight. We have quite a bit to discuss tonight, and hopefully soon we will have our guest on. But to start off, I'm just going to start off with a word of prayer, and then we will get going. Lord, just thank you so much for being with us tonight. Thank you for seeing us through this whole year. Thank you for each person that is watching, the audience. I thank you, God, for this amazing discussion we're going to have tonight. And Lord, just be with us as we journey through this. Pray for your blessing and favor in Jesus' name. Amen. So, welcome everybody. Lovely to have you here tonight. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start just tonight because there's been so much going on. Thank you, Nancy. So much going on this week, and so what I'll do is I thought I might just share and start first with something that is quite close to my heart. I want to share it with you because I have been contract to a few schools in the past year before the pandemic in regards to bringing kids back to school. So bringing them back to school and running workshops with them. Now, the school from when I was a little girl had very good values, and we had things like Bible in school. But this week, we have had a school up in Kaitaia who are set to close. And the reason why is because they refuse to replace the Christian values for the state sexualization curriculum. I don't know if you guys have actually seen uh, what is in the curriculum, but if you haven't, and we've been saying this throughout the whole year, look it up. Look it up. I know Bob McCoskey is successful with the mates and dates. That has been the funding has been dropped from that, but this in particular is there is a school. Um, can you guys hear me? Jackie said there's no sound, but if you can hear me, can you just say that you can hear me? So what the school is doing is instead of trying to fight, they're going to close because they have values and they have, imagine this. I've seen. Oh, you can hear me. Thank you. Um, Imagine having to teach this. So you have teachers who it's awkward. How can you teach from 4 years old, teach them about sexual things, about touching yourself? These are the things that are going to be in this curriculum. So imagine you being a teacher having to teach this. Imagine being the student. Imagine being the kids who are very young, uh, feeling awkward next to their peers. Kids, they copy out things. So you can imagine what kind of disaster this would be going into the future. So we have a school that has been very strong in their convictions, and they have said no. This is we are not going to have this. In fact, we would rather close our school than to actually be part of this, having the sexualized curriculum into schools. So this is the kind of thing we are having to face in 2023. So as parents, we need to stand up to this, because imagine your child coming home from school having learned this. This is where parents step in. This is where they should be. You should be in the place where you can teach your children at the right time, at the right age, this kind of thing. It's a personal thing that you need to, be able to sit down with your child, not in a class setting where it's integrated into maths and English. This is not just one where you can opt out anymore. This is integrated into everything. So, whew, you know what? I'm just so proud of the school who was able to do this. Able to say, you know what, we would rather close than to be having to do this in school. I mean, this is against all of their Christian values. So I applaud them. Hopefully we'll be able to get a chance to have a chat with him. So yeah, this is the kind of thing we have right now. And I have a very beautiful guest who I would like to introduce right now. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to bring Liz. Liz, hello.
Oh, Leo, what an inspiring story to come in on. And I'm so sorry. I was on another Zoom call. It did go slightly over and I am slightly late for you. And I apologize for that. But what an inspiring story. Can you name that school for me again?
It's Kaitaia. I think it's Kaitaia Christian School. I think it was.
How
But yeah.
heroic. How heroic. I was talking to Steve Oliver the other day and he was saying, Liz, it is a nightmare what's going on in schools for my kids. In every single subject, they are infiltrating with this dogma and this, propagandist stuff that is so corrupting of children's innocence, as well as, so many other
It's
things.
Kaitaia Abundant School. It's called Abundant Life School.
Wow. Let's both do a story on that. Wow. I'm just going to.
I think it's very important because this is the kind of thing that we will be pushing back on next year. We've got so many things, and thank you so much for joining me tonight.
I absolutely love the Daily Examiner. I'm not saying it because we're doing this interview. I love the work you've done, and I am coming on tonight just out of deep respect for all the work I've been watching you do. It's extraordinary, the quality that you're putting out. Extraordinary.
Thank you so much, and kudos to you as well. Just the incredible things that we have journeyed together, almost side by side on different things and different issues, but we have some great news, don't we, that was just released today. I'm just like, my heart is bursting, and I want you to share that, if that's okay.
It's so beautiful. After a few days of having to stay silent and wanting to rebel against the name suppression that makes no sense when this baby is known around the world. And I'll tell you how around the world. My beautiful cameraman was talking to a friend in an obscure part of Poland, and this friend, they hadn't caught up, Christmas call, and he goes, what are you up to? And he said, I've been doing a story on this baby. And he went, baby, whose name I can't say because I don't.
Really?
So in this obscure corner of Poland, they know about this baby's name. But no, we're meant to go with this farcical situation where we can't name him. So I just put the picture of a little pixie baby. You can have a look on Instagram. And there, isn't he adorable? He's out.
Oh, my heart. Oh my gosh, my heart is just full to bursting. And I was like, I can't wait for you to share this story tonight.
We posted it just an hour ago, and he is free. He's home with his mum and dad. When I last spoke to them, Jack was roaring. He wanted another piece of cake, and I was thinking, the little ones the twins will be so happy because they've grown up with Jack, around them like little tornado Jack, the 2-year-old, and they'll be so happy. Everything will be normal. A friend of mine said he so needs sunshine and vitamin D and some fresh air, and all of those things can happen now, and he's home for Christmas. It has been a little bit up and down because his weight was fluctuating a wee bit, and he had to be on a drug that keeps the fluid buildup down after such a massive operation. But that is looking like it's stabilizing. And I just said to Sam and Cole, I know when he's back in the normal run of things and on the farm and with their love and them feeling so much calmer, he will just flourish. And I would add there all our prayers and all our support. I truly believe, Leo, I truly believe that the love of thousands and thousands of Kiwis and probably millions around the world now has going into this baby energetically. Everything ultimately is energy. Those thoughts and those prayers and that love are so healing, that his healing from a traumatizing situation and one that was deeply dishonoring has just been so fast. A friend of mine always talks about this story of Joseph in the Bible, and he meets his brothers after all their abuses and everything. They tried to kill him and all sorts of stuff. And he's now the emperor in Egypt. And then the line is that everyone's saying, kill the brothers, they did you wrong. And he says, they meant it for evil, but God means it for good. And so this is the story here with, whatever evil
Mm.
was done, God and the love of, whatever faith you have in something beyond this earth, the divinity that is there around us, that divinity has carried this baby and these parents through. I have no doubt. And our love is part of that.
I think the quote is, where there's a will, there's a way, right? No names, just a quote. So tell me, Liz, how were you involved in the first place? Like, how did you come into being part of this? And I'm just so amazed at how big this got.
How it got, and those things can never be calculated or preempted, and if they were, they would never have the heart and soul this whole story had. It was Steve Oliver, who's a dear friend, who, funnily enough, Leo, I met coming up for a year ago. We went and did a story on him on Christmas Eve. I still remember it, and it was 5:30 on Christmas Eve. I was meant to be out at drinks at friends. I'd flagged all that to do this story of this amazing guy in a gym who was standing up saying, I'm not mandating anybody, and all my gym is open to anybody at all because I need to look after my community. So coming up for a year ago, I met this gorgeous man and Chrissy, his wife, and we've become dear friends. So he rang me about a month ago and said, look, a mate of mine, old school mate Cole, is staying with me, and his wife's in hospital with their baby, one of twins. And the baby needs a heart operation. It's quite big, but may not yet be urgent, but they definitely want unjabbed blood. And so I was pretty snowed, as we all have been, and we're all pretty exhausted. And I went, it could be a bit of a big story. So instead of saying I'll do it as a story, funnily enough, I rang them and said, look, I've got legal training. I always wanted to use law and mediation because I always feel you can find ways through in most situations where it's, where we find compromises that work. And I said, I'll come into the meeting with you. I'm sure they'll listen to you. There is a way. She said, they're not listening to us at all. They haven't been for weeks. We're really struggling. But I said, I'll pop into the meeting. And it was in that first meeting, in the first 5 or 10 minutes, where they were just trying to explain what their concerns were, and the research has shown and how they had concerns about blood, and it's not clear that blood from jabbed people is free of clotting and things that could poison their baby. Were he to have such a serious operation as a heart operation, what he needed to do was have blood flowing through his body, because they basically shut down the heart. And that blood, if it was polluted in any way, could have caused inflammation. And you cannot have an inflammatory condition in a heart operation of that magnitude in a 4-month-old baby. So we just tried to explain. And that was when the doctor, Kirsten Finnecane, I think her name is, said, she rolled her eyes and she said, sounds like science fiction to me, and had this weird patronizing thing like, you're clearly all nuts. And I said to her, but this is on the basis of a lot of research that's coming out from world doctors who have been questioning. There are many good sites, and I quoted some stuff from overseas. And then the other guy, Alan, who is a specialist, said, he said, well, I just don't believe it. I just don't believe it. I don't believe there's any difference. And I said, that's okay. You're entitled to your personal beliefs, because I believe we should all have freedom of speech, freedom of thought. You can put your personal beliefs aside. Let's, however, look at the quality research these parents have done and credit them with their intelligence, their willingness to go above and beyond for their baby as exemplary parents, and let's honor their views. And to that, it was just, it was just a whole thing of writing people off, being patronizing beyond belief, Leo, and in the end, flouncing out of the room. Oh, we're not putting up with this, which to me, when Sean Plunkett or any of these people hang up the phone or say, I'm not listening to you. I remember listening to Marcus Lush one night coming home in the car last year at the height of the madness, and he hung up on anybody who questioned what the government had done. And I thought, that is the hiding place of those who don't have the intelligence to research properly and look at what's uncomfortable, and those who are naturally going towards bullying rather than debating and listening. So when they flounced out of the room, I went, but they're doctors. They must be surely constantly researching. This is really worrying. And that was when I thought, this story needs to go at least New Zealand wide, never thinking it would go around the world the way it has, never.
Do you know, I feel like, when people hang up on you, there is no more discussion. There's no, it doesn't go both ways. When they hang up with you, they're saying that their opinion is more important than yours.
It's so arrogant. I would never hang up. I wouldn't hang up on Sean I keep calling him Sean Plonker because my friends are calling him Sean Plonker.
Oh,
Sean
no.
Plunkett. I
Yeah.
need to get his name right. But Sean Plunkett or any of them, I would listen and I wouldn't talk over. I think talking over and hanging up and abusing and name calling, they are the refuge of those who have not done the hard yards of researching properly. When you've researched, you can put documents and papers and interesting perspectives and quote people, and then you can have an exchange of ideas, which is what Daily Examiner is all about. Looking at an exchange of ideas. That's what New Zealand used to be.
And even if your opinion is different from, we
Yeah.
used to be able to, like, even have debates. You remember debating at school? That was so
Yes.
fun. It was just like, your opinion doesn't have to be the same. Let's have this. We don't even have debates anymore. You see them in Parliament, and they are, you know they're fighting like cats and dogs. It's not even like, no respect goes from one person to the other. It's just literally at each other's throats. And so you think, okay, if that's what's happening up there, you know everything filtered down.
And the more worrying thing in Parliament is they're all agreeing with each other. Someone said to me, the opposition is really our group of out of work people. They didn't get a job. They weren't voted in by us. They're in there as opposition, supposedly to oppose, to put the other side, and we don't have those healthy debates in Parliament because Luxon and Ardern seem to be on the same page. And I heard the other day, Leo, that he has said the only thing he will roll back, including this terrible oppression of free speech legislation that's currently going through, the only thing he's going to roll back is going to be Three Waters. And I thought, that's
Right.
not an opposition leader. That's someone he might as well be a complicity leader, and there's given that it's Christmas, I'm allowed to make bad puns, but you could say they don't have debates. They have mass debates in Parliament because that's what they do. It is disgusting. It's disgusting.
I think
that they're paid to whatever they are doing. They are not serving the people of New Zealand. They are self-serving, and that is wrong. That is wrong, and it's ethical.
A minister means to serve, and prime minister is the server of all. and what we've seen is the absolute opposite. So, let's go back to February, because in February, when we were down in Parliament, not one of them came out. So that was my first. Where is the opposition? What does opposition actually mean if you are not coming out to say, you know what I see what you're doing? There are people who have lost their jobs, intelligent people, not this river of filth that they keep talking about. There were doctors, there were lawyers, there were nurses,
teachers, beautiful, beautiful humans, family members about to lose their homes because of these ghastly segregationist policies.
Did you think
we were just so reasonable?
Do you think we just have, come together and do a kumbaya? No, all of us had a reason to be there. And, to think about, actually not one of them come to actually even talk to the people. This is, here we go. The Freedom Accord. Yeah. So, not one of them came to even speak or,
not
one.
one. And to me, Leo, I would say there are two things I'd love to see at the next election. These are big calls. I would love to see the end of the Labour Party in New Zealand. I think it's done. I think it should be done. It has so betrayed our country. And every single one of those who are so lacking in courage, there must have been some, apart from Gaurav Sharma, and he even back in February stayed silent. Let's not forget that. But those who stayed silent, all those women, there's another woman who used to be in mainstream media. Now, what's her name? She also came from a law background. They're all forgettable. None of them have stood up because they're all too scared to stand up to this leader who I gather from a number of people who've written to me is ferocious behind closed doors. I mean, what did she call David Seymour the other
An
day?
arrogant
That's mild.
prick.
Yeah, that's apparently mild compared with the language she unleashes behind closed doors, and particularly on anybody from her party who tries to stand up to her. But that is your role if you're paid. I would much rather have lain down my role in the Labour Party early on under such malignant guidance and stood up to Jacinda Ardern and said it's not right where you're taking the Labour Party, then go along in silence. So they all should go. I think the Greens should go. They have just, I know someone who saw Marama Davidson behind Parliament while the village was on and said that she totally refused to even engage or speak to this person who was from our side of the media, and how disgusting it was. I think that David Seymour, a lot of people putting hope there, but I have heard from a number of sources again, and I'd like David to debate this with me, that in private meetings after the whole routing by those thugs on March the 2nd, he was saying, they were a river of filth. So he's Mr. Talking out of both sides of his mouth. And Luxon is looking utterly weak. And worse than that, I think in the way he ran in New Zealand, he was renowned for sticking to KPIs, key performance indicators. And if you didn't meet those indicators, you were out. There was just a brutality in the way he ran in New Zealand. So these little things that get filtered to both of us, you as well probably, by people writing. And by the way, do you know this? This is how Kiwis communicate. Right. And we put the jigsaw puzzle together. And I'm calling them all out. I don't think one of the 120 should get back in after the next Parliament because of what they did, not listening to the people.
Liz, I want to ask you about Tony Wall's message to you.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that?
It was just chilling. It was, I don't know if you've seen the movie Other People's Lives, but everyone should see it. It's about the Stasi in Germany when the Cold War was on, and it's about a man who listens in, and he's cruel and cold, and he's without emotion, and he goes upstairs above the flat of a group of beautiful artists, playwrights and actors and writers and poets and thinkers, and they're all talking about how terrible it is in East Berlin. And he diligently every day puts on the headphones and records all their conversations and delivers their conversations to the Stasi. And there's this incredible moment in the film where he's listening to them day in, day out, and they're talking about the importance of our humanity in these short journeys we have on life on this earth. Our lives are very short. They're really just a spark of stardust here on this earth for a moment, and then we're gone. 90 years, 80 years, 60 years, who knows? But we are here, they were talking about on this conversation, we're here to do as much good as we can and have as much humanity and goodness to one another as we can. And in this film, it's the most extraordinary scene now where this brutish man who's had no emotion and can betray his own countrymen, one tear rolls down his cheek. And the telling scene is that he leaves out those words that they are saying, that there's a particular thing they're going to do about escape, and he leaves those words out. And in doing so, he saves their lives because he finds his own humanity. So when Tony Wall did this cold, cruel message to me of, what do you feel that they're, a cop killer in Queensland is posting in his general Facebook posts he's posted about the baby? I just looked at it and went, surely no New Zealand journalist can fall to this level of filth and gutter journalism and revolting lack of any integrity. So I was going to call my partner and just say, what do I say? And then I just said, guide me in the words, whatever is the right thing to say. Can I write? And I wrote my reply in one fell swoop. I didn't change one word. I was exhausted and I turned the phone off and I rolled over and went to sleep thinking he would never publish it. To his one credit, and I'm hoping this is the equivalent of the tear down the cheek in that film, he did post my reply in full. He's done apparently people have told me I don't look at him or his articles or anything. And he's done discussions saying, there's so much to unpick here. And they're all picking over it. And Sean Plunkett is saying, as he always does, she's mad and she's loony. But it's not landing. He's not reading the room, Sean. And neither is Tony Wall or the perfidious Paula Penfold, who was a producer of mine on Breakfast, who was bleating on a Twitter message to Sean someone screenshot it before she made it private, bleating that I was indeed responsible for the Queensland killer. Now, let me tell you this. A friend in Australia sent it to me and said there isn't one mention in the Australian press about the stuff to do with the baby. What are they doing in New Zealand? So that's the first thing. It's not part of the Australian story. And to see Paula sharpening her biting teeth, in a viper-like way, trying to see if she can get away a story on me, Paula, it will not work. It will backfire on you. I do not suggest you do a fire and fury on me. What I suggest to you, Paula Penfold, and I worked with you in a year on Breakfast, and I avoided her that year as my co-producer on Breakfast. I avoided her like the plague. I found her incredibly cold and cruel. And I felt no support from her as my producer that year. I could have gone upstairs and reported her, but I never did. I just went, I never want to work with that woman again. Now, if she sharpens her claws and tries to dig them into me, I believe it will massively backfire with the New Zealand population. I've had enough of journalists doing stories that are not real stories. I told a story that matters, and it's mattered enough to go around the world. Why don't you do stories on what's going on in Starship? Tell me this, Paula, have you investigated whether there are any injured children in there from NZ Blood? Because I've heard some stories and I can't get the person who's told me to speak out. So I have to stay silent because I can't get that source. They're too scared. But you as a mainstream media journalist could dig into real stories about what's going on in Starship, whether there are any injured children from NZ Blood. Find those stories. Dig into Jacinda Ardern, why she's never telling us about the huge numbers of jab-injured Kiwis, and dig into how many Kiwis are feeling this Christmas, having lost their businesses, their often their marriages, their family members, the divisions, their loved ones in death. Do those stories, Paula Penfold, and do not spend public money trying to discredit me. You can't hurt me. I'm willing to go away and disappear if that's what New Zealanders want. If they want me here, I will stand. But I don't have any ego in this game at all. So if you go after me, there's no win for you. But show us your journalism in the right areas. That's what I'd say to Paula, because she's definitely sounding like she's trying to sharpen her claws. And if she gets NZ on her money to do a piece on me, to hit on me, it just shows that the government doesn't want truths out, Leah.
Yeah, and for that, like, what about the other journalists? There's so many that work for stuff for Radio NZ. I've seen all of their, this is all about, most of it is our taxpayers' money. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
And we're just like, this is our money. You're not even telling the truth. Like, where does this start and end?
Even if they believe their truth is fine, their role as journalists is meant to tell the truths they don't think are fine. They're meant to tell both sides of the story. I'm telling our side because there's such imbalance in mainstream. If I were in mainstream and being paid the money they are, my God, I would tell what I believed. If I was a fervent pro-jabber, I would still tell the anti-jab story in every single piece of journalism I put out. Otherwise, I'd go home at night and toss and turn thinking, I am betraying what was once an honorable profession. And these mainstream media journalists are totally betraying what was once a deeply honorable profession that is a crucial part of maintaining a democracy.
Karen's just brought up a very interesting point. She said that New Zealand Blood has put a call out for more blood, and the comments that have come from that is just like, well, at least tell the truth if you're going to ask for more blood. Like, we've got so many people who want to help, but look at what's just happened. Everybody's still in a place where I just can't believe this is the New Zealand we live in right now, Liz.
And so many Kiwis wrote to us and said, we will help the baby. We have O positive blood. We'll donate. Line me up. Where can I donate? So many others, Leo, said, I've gone into NZ Blood and said, I would like to donate. I'm not jabbed. I would like my blood to go into a non-jabbed side of the NZ Blood service. And over again, they've written and said, I just got a no. I just was told, no, we don't do that. We won't do that. They could do it, but they're choosing not to do it. And that is unforgivable. Now, this has sparked a debate around the world. And I tell this story. This is not just a story of baby Will. This is a story of your family. If your child was in a car accident, and I'm not talking to you, Leah, I'm talking to everybody watching this. Paula Penfold, if your child was in an accident, I promise you, you would want unjabbed blood in that baby. And why do I know that? Because I know of somebody who's having blood tests taken, who's had jab blood, and the blood quality has changed. And the test, as the blood comes in, it's coagulating in a way they've never seen, but they are not willing to speak out. And who can blame? I can't blame people for being scared to speak out. I'm brave, and I'm experienced in media, and I knew what I was doing, and it's been horrific what I've been put through, and my family to see what I've been put through. But I will stand up and do this. But how can I blame someone who hasn't had any media experience, who goes, I can't face that kind of haranguing and the lies and the twisting of me as a human being by these sick minds, many of whom are possibly bots on the government side. It feels like a very much a propaganda bot-driven operation, the personal attacking of me. But all I'm saying is, if you have anybody you love and you want them to survive, just like Sam and Cole, you will want the best quality blood. And there's no question that the best quality blood is unjabbed blood. In the court case, on the eve of the court case, we had a raft of affidavits delivered in which NZ Blood finally admitted, after a week of saying there was no difference, Liao, they finally admitted in those documents there is a difference. There are mRNA remnants that we found in the blood. And then they tried to argue, but we think it's safe. Now, that should have been the headline news on Radio New Zealand's Morning Report, on the Herald, on every journalist in mainstream should have said, what the hell is going on? When NZ Blood has denied and denied and denied, the doctors at Starship have denied and denied. On the eve of the court case, why did they admit it? Because if they'd stood up the next day with the lies they'd been telling us, they would have been guilty of perjury. And they knew it. So they had to change it. They had to admit. But their lawyer then very weakly in the court said, but, even though it's in there, we don't think there's any difference. Show us the tests that show there's no difference. Show us the tests you've done that prove this blood is safe. But I can tell you, if anybody I love needed a blood transfusion, I would want unjabbed blood, and every Kiwi should.
And I think that's why it went all over the world, because it's not just about that. As our parents, our parental rights, we don't have any anymore, Liz. And I said something to Elliot actually around. We had 2 police officers there. We have the highest child abuse rate in the world, and we had 2 police officers sitting there guarding a very loved baby of parents that love them. I just went, that is so mind-blowing to me. This is them sitting there, babysitting, where we have the highest child abuse rate, and the babies are dying to their abusers in New Zealand. It's nothing to be proud of. We should be so ashamed. And there we have a picture that we will always remember. And the first time that broke out was my son texting me, one of them saying, Mum, how can I give blood? And I was just like, this is incredible. Like one of my boys, saying, how, Mum, can you find out how I can give blood? And I just didn't know anything about the story until I started reading into it and realizing there are thousands of people all over New Zealand who, and this is a young man who was wanting to give blood. This is our Kiwi, this is who we really are. Don't you think, Liz? There's so many out there, and it's time for us to go, okay, this is enough. We're all going to stand together. That's enough.
And it's a story for jabbed, unjabbed. It doesn't matter whether you're jabbed or not jabbed anymore. You are Kiwi. And Liao, the way you described your boy, he could feel the finest part of him, the heroic part of him, the communal part. If a society cannot stand in defense of a baby and the wrongdoing done to a baby, that society is lost. But we are not lost. There are enough of us. It might not be in mainstream media that they have that decency yet. And I hope, Tony Wall, I hope you find it. I have hope for you. But there are enough of us out there beyond mainstream media who go, my God, I'm not letting this happen to the smallest, most vulnerable of us. A society must gather around. And I'll tell you, those police, please lay down your badges before you ever do anything as cruel as you did to that baby. Do you know what they did? I rang Winston Peters the next day with Steve Oliver, and I appealed to Winston. I said, please, you as a kaumātua, as an elder, you can put out something saying what was done was kidnapping, was wrong. He said, it's not kidnapping technically, blah, blah. I said, Winston, 4 men surrounding a dead-eyed woman walked in and enabled that woman to pick up a baby wordlessly without one piece of explanation to probably the most caring, the finest exemplars of parenting that I've ever worked with, carried that baby out of the room. Then 2 more blocked her every move as she panicked and tried to get to follow her baby to protect. This baby had never been off her. They then put her in a room, and she had to sign conditions that were so brutal. I won't go through all of them, but one of them was, you are not allowed to hold your baby at all the night before this operation will be forcibly carried out by the state at 8 a.m. I stayed up that week most nights until 3 or 4, just ringing Sam or Cole or messaging them through the night. But that night will haunt me forever, because Sam was sitting in a room on the other side from her baby in her cot who was crying for her. She had guards. She had 2 police who followed her even to get a drink of water, followed her to the bathroom. Such shameful behavior by those people. They will be haunted till the end of their days. I think Sam and Cole, because of our love, all of us, love from all of us, will heal. But she was allowed one thing before that baby was taken to the operation, and it's a heart operation. The baby could have died. She was allowed only to kiss his hand. I was on the phone to her that morning when I heard it saying, please, can I hold my baby? He was crying for his mother. They smell, babies smell, they snuffle, they feel, they taste their mother. They feel her chemicals of love. They need all that. And we'd talked to 2 cardiac specialists in America who said the main thing for a baby going to an operation of this magnitude is the mother and baby must be calm, happy, and in the best possible state. Then the operation outcome will be wonderful. They put this mother and baby in the worst state. They separated them. Can you imagine anybody, Paula Penfold, if you'd been separated from your baby and allowed before an operation in which that baby could have died to only kiss the baby's hand? What would you have done? And what would you do now if you realized how much you are betraying every mother, every woman, every Kiwi by continuing to stand with this brutal government who sanctioned this behavior, Liao?
Yeah. I mean, just watching the video, like, it's been incredibly emotional for everybody, throughout New Zealand, because, you look at it and you think, these men, these grown men standing here having to take,
And the abuse that was heaped on Cole, who was being what a good man is, which is saying, you do not do this to my family. That's my baby. That's what a good man does. And this man in pink, this doctor here who allowed it, unforgivable. But this man in pink had come in earlier and he had spent about half an hour, even longer, doing the most insincere talk like this, Liao. He was going, now, because we had a friend on a phone on live stream. I could see it. Now, I really want to hear your perspective. I just really want to understand. So they said, we feel very violated and not listened to. And we feel like, I can really understand that. No, I can see from your perspective how hard that would be. And it went on for about 10 minutes. And Cole was really expressing his heart. And I was saying to my friend who I was watching it with, uh-oh, boy, I hope he can see this is fake. And sure enough, after about 10 minutes of, I really see that, all trained, all insincere, all glib, he started going, now what I've come to do is talk about the operation tomorrow morning, to which Cole would say, We don't want the operation. That's what I'm telling you. The baby doesn't need the operation yet. We've had 2 heart specialists in America say it could wait for 3 weeks. It's not urgent. And we would like to get our views heard by our doctors because we're not being heard. We're not feeling heard. And you go, no, I really hear that, how hard that would be. Oh, how difficult. Now, let's talk about the operation tomorrow. And this is the kind of mind game, gaslighting nonsense they're training into police to be totally fake, insincere, and do this speech that means nothing. Kiwis have always been real, and we've loved to call bullshit. And that was such bullshit. And then what did that man do? You look at him on that video, the one in the pink shirt, he blocked her. He blocked every minute she tried to get to her baby, to follow the baby out. Unforgivable. Psychotic behavior. Psychotic.
Well, that video actually touched the hearts of so many, so many people, not just in New Zealand, but around the world, because this is the kind of police we have now. We saw it from February. We see it unfold and unravel. So I want to ask you, what are you going to do next year? Am I able to ask you that? Or is it still in the process? I just...
It's so funny. The last few days would have brought such joy to Jacinda Ardern's heart. I'm sure her dark heart. I felt such despair, Leah. I really felt broken, and I've wanted to give up. I'm human. The abuse and seeing the hurt in my children's faces, from their mother bravely standing up, and that's the reward, and the abusive comments and the twisting of me as if there's something in this for me. And I just, I have a chance to be on a bit of land, and I thought, I'll just go and grow vegetables, and I'll feed people and I'll grow them with such love, and I'll feed Kiwis, and I'll just go silent. And I'm sure Jacinda Ardern would, be happy with that, and the brutes in mainstream media would applaud that. And then today, I've had to sleep a lot the last few days, and there's no self-pity in this. I'm glad that I stood up, and I would walk away saying I did my absolute best, and now it's up to others to find their courage too, and to go through these fires of hell, and to have that sense of utter defeat in a way, but something's happened this afternoon, and I've just been on this group call with other people on the truth side, and we were talking about how we did all come together, and every single one of us played the part. I have no more credit than every single other one, you guys as well, all of us pulling together, supporting this story, supporting this family. If it wasn't for every part, we are the sum of our parts, this would not have gone where it went. So there's anyone who would try to own this story would just be an egoic, mess who should be dismissed. I just played my tiny part, and I did it with my courage. And then someone rang today and said, would you bring that courage to politics? And I just couldn't imagine, the lies that are being told out there, and the forces arraigned against us, Leah. I mean, she has got a team, I gather, of between 70 and 120 people in a PR spin department called Te Punaha Matatini that is as evil as Goebbels' one in Germany. And I'm not exaggerating. They are taking taxpayer money to work out ways to spin stories endlessly for this government, to mislead us, to lie to us, and to put the wrong thoughts and the wrong ideas, to put fear and hatred amongst us. That is evil. But she's got all that taxpayer money she can spend. And we're a team like you guys, we're a team of about 5, and we're doing our best. It's laughable. It's so David and Goliath. So when this person tonight rang and asked me, I wanted to say that's ludicrous. And then he said, in history, it's only been those who've done the impossible that really stand the test of time. It's not the corrupt ones like Ardern. So, my answer is I have no idea, but it gave my heart this gorgeous surge. Yeah. Can you imagine, Leah, a group of as many of us who are real? And here's the threshold. It would have to be Kiwis who don't want anything from it, who don't care about fame. I had fame for a while, and it was and it was in a tiny fishbowl of a country, and just was ludicrous. And it was like building your house on sand. I was meant to be the rising star of TVNZ and the one taking over from Judy Bailey for, what was it, a year or something, and everyone sucks up to you. And then I stood up for abused children back in the early 2000s, and we had a guy, Rangi Whakaruru, came on board, and he lied to us. I got Michael Jones, I got Xena, Warrior Princess. I negotiated $1 million worth of free airtime for messages. But TV3 did a hit piece on me, and from there, I had already been through one of these media maelstroms, and that was when I became so disillusioned in media. And Kim Hill did a particularly brutish interview in which she wasn't interested in the truth at all. So I left media. I did up my next 2 years. It was painful, loathing media, and left it and swore never to come back. But this is different. This is us being real. And I realize I want nothing from it. I don't want fame. I'm struggling financially, but I don't even want money. I don't. I will make my way in life. It's so old-fashioned, it's ridiculous. I want to serve a country I love. I want to love the good Kiwis that I know are still quietly sitting there saying, what are we going to do to save our country from this overseas influence and all these people who are willing to sell us off, including our mainstream media, including these politicians, including Te Pūnaha bloody Matatini and Kate Hanna, who heads that. Stop selling your own country out. Just stop it. Just stand for New Zealand. Say no to the American influences and all the moneyed ones and Bill bloody Gates and all the rest of them, the corrupt ones, and say, God, before I die, I'm going to do something right. And I'm going to save my country from this corruption. So imagine a group of us, Leah, who didn't want anything from it, who stood and said, let's just stand as a group of real Kiwis, do what we need to do for the next 3 years, stand together and win our country back. It's so outrageous. It's too David and Goliath from my mind right now. But if it did happen, wouldn't it be good? And maybe there's a much better leader out there. I would put that call out. If you feel you could do it with wanting nothing, I mean, no fame, no money, no status, nothing except that you help your country, please come forward. But maybe your son is one, Leah. Maybe he is one. Wouldn't it be beautiful?
I mean, we've got a lot of young people who actually feel the call, and I think that's what it needs to be. Liz, is the call needs to be on your life. That way, nothing else matters. But actually fighting for something that, I mean, you look at New Zealand, you go outside and you take a photo, and it's picturesque. It's just, this is the most beautiful country in the whole world. Why are we not fighting for it? And I fully agree with you. Like, to stand together and just go, this is enough.
I can feel when people are real, and you're one. And people are real when there's no brand building, there's no strategy, there's no holding back going, which way is the wind blowing? I think there are enough people supporting this. I'll speak up. When you speak up when it's not popular, when you do it because it's the right thing, those are the people I want to stand with. I don't want to stand with clever, calculated, PR spun, brand building, empty vessels. You've got to be willing to go through some fires for this. But
I mean,
I think Kiwis have it.
I think we have it. And the thing is that what's burning inside of you, what will start to shine is the darker it gets. I'm afraid that's the only time it's actually going to shine. I went through a place where I went through a leadership course, and because I didn't stand with their convictions, I was cancelled from it. It was a horrific time of going, okay, I need to stand on my conviction. I want to stand for life. I want to stand for, whereas in this group was, going into the colonization and, just actually a victimization is pretty much what it comes down to. And we can no longer be victims. We cannot. Because if we do and we sit in that, nothing will ever be enough. We will feel sorry for ourselves until our country has been taken over. We need to step out of that and go, this is enough. No more victimization, no more feeling sorry for ourselves. We have got something amazing to stand for. And, you've done it too, and I did it too. I did a podcast on masculinity, and I
Yes.
heard you speak because I was like, yes, I got Steve Oliver and Elliot and quite a few of them, and I said, bring our men back to stand as
Yes.
pillars of our society, like
Yes.
stand. The women have been incredible, for their time, because men aren't listened to right now. They have been put in a place, especially white
Yes.
men, and both you and I have white men, put in a
Yes.
place of, put to the side. And now it's time for us as women to stand next to our men, and
Oh,
give them back the pillars of society that they need to be able to stand and fight, because imagine their power. We've just had women leaders for the last while, and I'm like, I'm so done with that.
and they're not the kind of women I actually ever wanted as leaders. Between you and
I
me,
know. Who chose them? I
Hillary
don't even think they
Clinton.
were elected. Were they elected?
I never wanted Hillary Clinton. Helen is not the kind of woman that I've ever truly admired. There's a deep coldness there, and I won't go into Helen Clark, but she's, she definitely has
It
mentored
was
this
a
prime
prodigy,
minister.
wasn't it?
And
Yes.
yeah, and I do not respect this current prime minister. Why? Because she lies. The best meme about the prime minister is that one. I think it's
Oh,
Ryan
I love that
from
one.
TV3. Prime Minister, what's your favorite lie of all the lies you tell? And she went, I don't lie. And he goes, yeah, that's my favorite as well.
Oh,
Because she
she said,
lies.
yes, she said something like, you can exist in politics without lying. I was just like, really? Can you name me someone, please?
I
I'm
thought
never
of
a good
what could go on her tombstone at the end of her life. It would be, here, comma, she lies. Because
Oh,
she'll still be
geez.
lying if she does.
Oh, I don't know.
It's a wonderful bad taste joke to end with. But Leo, you
Yeah.
are so real, and you're so you're authentic, and you give me so much hope. And I believe there are many of us. So let's take some time over Christmas, rest our weary souls and our bruised hearts, and think, I wonder what magic a group of Kiwis who are as real as this and willing to be vulnerable and just open our hearts. What could we create if we didn't want anything, but were willing to serve? What could we do
That's
in the new year?
amazing.
Beautiful
Yeah,
to chat.
I'll definitely have you again over next year. Well, as
Lovely.
we become these political commentators, and maybe
So
even part of it. Well, I mean, we'll be the real ones.
wouldn't it be amazing? Look how real I am. I had a cut on my finger. I've got a great
Oh,
big bandage.
I love
I just want to say what an honor it's been, and maybe at the very least we could combine with some media work next year as well, because
Sure.
we will need media to ask these people who are saying, hey, I'm fit for Parliament. Each one of them should be questioned by us on our side of the media divide. Who are you? And be real and come on for a conversation like this. And each one who's standing from this period should be asked, why didn't you go down and talk in February to those good middle New Zealanders
Every
who
single
were
one of
so
them.
hurting? Everyone. Leo, we'll talk in the new year. Thank you.
Yeah, Liz, can I just pray for you before we finish, and then
Love that.
we'll ever
Love
go?
that.
Yeah, God, I just want to thank you so much for this time that we spent together. Thank you for your love for us, Lord. I just want to pray for Liz. I pray, God, that you'll wrap your love around her as she rests for the new year. I pray, God, that you'll give her creative ideas in her heart, and also for our audience, Lord, as they've been watching. I pray that you'll give them the courage to stand and to be part of all these Kiwis that are going to stand for righteousness and for truth in the new year, and especially for freedom. So, God, thank you for this time that we've had tonight. I pray your blessing and favor, and look after us until we meet again. In Jesus' name, amen.
And may I add also, could we all pray for baby Will, that he continues to get better and better and better, and that Sam and Cole heal. And may we all include them in our Christmas Day prayers and blessings. Thank you. Amen.
Bless
Lovely.
you. Bye.
Lovely to talk.
You
Bye, my
too.
dear.
We'll do this
Bye.
again.
Definitely.